I started this process talking to the staff and said, you can either be the cricket or you can either be the grasshopper or the ant. And I said, we're going to be the ant. We're going to be prepared. And so very quickly, we got freezers on campus. We started buying a week to 2 weeks worth of items, which has been very beneficial for us. You know, I talk to several times a week. I talk to all the other communities to see how their dining programs are going, and every area is a little bit different on supply. We have a very heavy amount of disposables. Now, granted, they're not consistent. They change, and I'm sure you've seen that in your delivery. One might be a solid container, one might be a clear container, one might be a thinner plastic, one might be a biodegradable container or a paper container. We're pretty much buying whatever's out there on the market to make sure that we have those available for our residents and our culinary teams to be able to use. When it comes to food, what we ended up doing is we had a completely third night team who was working separate than the teams that were making food for your actual delivery, and they were making an in-house back stock. So I think we have like 18,000 portions of soup that is literally good in the freezer, ready to go. I can't remember the exact number, but we had something like a solid week's worth of delivery for the entire campus of meals that are actually already ready and done, that we would just need to thaw and portion out. And with that, that was a precaution if we lost a culinary team from either getting sick or for the fact of just out of the abundance of caution, if someone wasn't following the certain protocols and they were connected to someone who tested positive, we would take that entire team and quarantine them off-site, but we still have to produce meals. So we have that as a backup. So I literally could have 0 culinarians work for an entire week, and we could still feed the entire community without cooking one thing. It's already pre-done. We're prepared that way. The other thing that we've done in those freezers from a backstock portion is, and if you've seen in the news, many meat processing plants have been shut down, or there's been shortages, or there's been other areas. So what we ended up doing was really buying out large quantities of different cuts of beef, chicken, and pork. Luckily enough, seafood, we've not seen any major issues. Just from variety. Boats are still going out, they're still bringing it in. We have a great connection with a fresh local seafood, so we've done very well there. Actually, because with the restaurant shutting down, seafood became one of the items that was stopped selling as much, and because so many people, we were able to buy a lot of our seafood fresh, actually at a pretty good price. So we still look good there. Even from a vegetable standpoint, we bought a lot of flash frozen fresh vegetables and have those in the freezer available if need be. Luckily, we haven't seen or had any produce issues. Sometimes quality, we've sent some stuff away. Dairy is a challenge. I think that's for all of us as a country. It's sporadic. We are kind of what I would say is playing the curve. So we know if from a community standpoint from our stores that we need 100 gallons of milk, we're using 3, sometimes up to 4 different vendors and probably ordering a combination of about 150 to 175 gallons. And then when we find out that our partial orders are being delivered, we're hitting about that 100 range. We've had 1 or 2 hiccups, but we've seen to kind of find that balance there, so that's worked out well. The chefs work with their teams to create menus that are the individual flyers that residents get at their apartment. And the thought process behind these menus aren't the same as when we would write it for the restaurant, because we are also thinking of what items will hold well, transport well, be able to be reheated and still have a great flavor and taste. And that's not all foods. The next part of it is after those menus are written, we submit those menus to our vendors that we purchase from, letting them know the dates and times that we plan on purchasing, an estimate of how much product we would purchase. They respond back to us, letting us know if they feel that it would be achievable in the market, because everything's fluctuating a lot. Sometimes we'll submit a menu and they'll come back and say, I don't know if we would have that much beef available at that time. You might want to look at a different cut or a different product. And then we go back and rework the menu. So we're actually constantly writing, submitting, and rewriting menus. So when you get that final menu on your shelf, it usually involves about 10 days of back and forth with the chefs and the different companies that we purchase from. The next part is after we get those orders, every restaurant has a spreadsheet in a computer program that we have the resident entered in, what meal plan they're on, and then what your selections are. We also have a special comment section that we kind of type, what maybe you're allergic to, or where there's an issue, if you don't want a breakfast item, or you don't like soda, or you only like diet soda. Whatever your comment or suggestion that we've gotten historically from you, we have that in there. After that is filled out, the teams go back to either filling out individual sheets or writing on bags, all of those special requests and all of those items. So that spreadsheet, one copy goes to the kitchen, so they know how many proportions of each product they need to be making. The other goes to the front of the house, who prior to delivery are writing all of that information out on either bags or different slips of paper. Every team has a little bit different way that works best for them, but the main way is to communicate when they're building that order, to have all that information, and then also the person who's checking and confirming the order has something to go off of. So from a back of the house culinary side, we're actually very lucky. Unlike some communities, currently, we have, I would say, about 80–85% of our culinary staff working. We've divided them into different teams, so people are working less days on campus, so they're spending more time in their home, but when they are on campus, they're working much longer, 10, 12-hour days from the culinary side. Some of our managers are working 14 or 16-hour days just because they're managing a staff, and then after staff go, they'll take care of some of the paying bills and the finances and payroll and stuff like that. But our main goal is to, so we've kind of combined a 40+ hour work week in either 3 days or 4 days, depending on how the shift works. That also, dividing those teams up, allows us to go into our kitchens and set up sections that are 6 foot apart from each other. So not only are they wearing gloves, masks, hairnets, aprons, protective equipment to protect themselves, but also to protect anything that they could possibly have for the food that we're preparing. There's a lot of those processes in place. There's a lot of time spent doing time and temperature checks to make sure that if it's hot, we're chilling it down properly, that it's cold properly, that when we're delivering, that it's not reaching different temperatures. And because of that temperature, it's kind of limited some of the things that we can and cannot do in the delivery, which is, I know, frustrating to some residents. It's challenging for us too, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're using an abundance of caution when we're doing those menu items. Most of our wait staff is composed of students who are still going to school. Even though they're not physically going to school, they still have online classes, and they have live classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's why we ended up pushing back that delivery. Instead of saying we'd be done at 5 o'clock, maybe 7, because instead of coming in at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, they're coming in now more around 3:30, kind of like what they did prior to school being shut down. Now the number of front of the house students is dropped dramatically. So we had anywhere from maybe 180 to 200 wait staff. We have now less than 60 working. Out of that 60, that's spread between all 3 buildings. Probably our biggest delivery, if it's not on a school day, we can have up to maybe 18 individuals delivering. The smallest delivery we have done so far has been with 6 people. That took a long time. That was a 10-hour day for delivery, and that's probably, it's doable, but it's small and it fluctuates. I think on that particular day we pulled some of our kitchen staff to help as well, and we pull other people. So some of our staff too, because of need financially for their families or for actually the scholarship to hit their minimum hours to achieve that scholarship, they actually work in our concierge program. So we don't cross over different teams. So if you're working concierge, that means you're running those packages up to residents' apartments. We don't have them socialize or cross over and then also deliver food. We keep all of our teams separate. The other piece is a lot of our full-time wait staff went and are doing delivery for our mail team, and also a different team that does delivery for our stores. So we really have spread out the staff that are willing and able to work to take care of their needs, but also to take care of the needs of our residents. The biggest thing I can tell you is to be safe, social distancing. So when we are delivering, it doesn't matter if it's mail, your grocery order, your food order, a package, anything like that. Don't open the door right when it's knocked on. Give them time to back away. And I know it goes against our human nature. We feel like, if there's an issue or a problem, we can fix it immediately. The problem with it is after we deliver something, we can't really take it back. So if you place something out saying, I don't want this, at that point in time, it 100% is being thrown away. So if you say, this isn't my grocery order, I don't want it, it has now been in our mind contaminated because you didn't have gloves on, you didn't have protection, so that product is now wasted. It's same thing with food delivery. If you bring something back, and please don't ever do that, or if you put it out on the ledge saying this isn't what I want or this is whatever, we'll bring you something additional, or if we sent the wrong item, we'll bring you a replacement. But the safest thing for us is for you just to throw it away. I'm just going to be honest. The other thing, which is probably my biggest concern, is we have one building in particular who, it's one floor, and hopefully it's only one individual, but we haven't been able to identify yet, constantly keeps taking items that they get in their delivery and placing them by the elevator and saying, free, please help yourself. It's not surprising to me that that building has more positive and active COVID cases than all the other buildings combined. So we don't want to be crossing with each other. We don't want to be sharing items. Please box it up. We're trying to find a time frame with a local food bank so we can collect these items to donate them. They have precautions, the food banks that I've talked to so far, to be able to take and sanitize food. We're trying to figure out the best way to be able to pick it up. We haven't come with that yet. And I'll be honest, when we started this, I was really hoping we'd be out of this phase, and so people could come and donate and put it in a big box and we just ship it off. But we're not there yet. That's something that I know we're working on, because I know people don't want to waste. If you don't want to waste items too, other thing that I highly recommend is reaching out to the restaurant that brings your delivery and letting them know, I don't drink any soda, or I don't eat anything with nuts, or I don't like chips, whatever it might be. Tell us what you don't want us to bring you. We will do our best. And when I say that, I'm not going to say 100% of the time you're not going to receive it, but we try to be in that 95% of the time you're not going to receive those items that you requested. But with different hands, different people, and also too, the fact that people are only doing this every 3 days, and especially with our student staff, if they have class and maybe don't come to work, they might only do one delivery a week, so it doesn't become repetitive nature, so sometimes mistakes are made. We will bring you something to correct a mistake, but if we brought the wrong thing, at that point, just either put it to the side if it's non-perishable, that it can be donated later. Trash it, but don't give it to your friend. Don't say, don't move it over. The other thing too that I tell people is we're bringing you 3 days worth of food. That food is good for 3 days. So when your next delivery is coming, if you haven't eaten something, my recommendation is you throw it away. If you need to reduce, you can let us know. We can do that. Some people, when they get their order, maybe they really liked curry chicken, and so they wanted 3 of it. They knew they weren't going to eat all 3, so the first day they put it in a separate container and they freeze it. That's fine. That's safe. You can have it later. That's fine. But if you've hit that 3rd day and you haven't eaten, throw those items away. That's my recommendation.